All right, party people. This your man Griff. I guess you can say this here is a non-notary um, video, but I believe some of the stuff what I'm gonna talk about can apply to notaries. I think it can apply across the board. A lot of y'all may not know that my youngest son um, did gymnastics, and he did it on a pretty high level. Um, he was fairly good. Overall consistent, and he started a little late in it, so there was a time where he had to catch up. Strength wise, skill wise, understanding how to do certain things. So he started in the game a little late. I think around 9 years old, and 9 years old is sort of late especially for the men, um, and most definitely for girls, it's late. So he started late in the game, but he quickly made up some ground and got to a point where he even made it to nationals. And he really tried, and there were some few mistakes here, some mental mistakes he made that kept him out of the nationals for a couple of years, and then he finally got there. And he ended up getting a fifth place spot on his favorite event, the pommel horse. So you say, well, fifth place, trust me, it was only 6 spots. He got fifth. Um, he was very, very happy, and with that, gymnastics is expensive. And there's a lot of work, a lot of time and effort you have to put into it. You have to have a team of people that are there and that can help that athlete. And not just the physical part, but the emotional part. And one of the things that I learned that I had to develop, or that ended up developing, and both actually me and my wife, because there was times where she went to the meets and I wasn't there. One of the things me and my wife had to learn to do was pay attention to our son's emotional well-being. That was very, very key, because talent wise, an athlete could be good, but you got to pay attention to their emotional well being. In certain competitions, they're fine. Then they get around other athletes in a different competition that might be of a little bit more prestige or a higher level, a little bit more competition, and then you can see the nerves. So we had to find a way and develop a way to help keep him focused and not concerned about other people, about what other athletes or gymnasts did, and stay in the moment. Me and my wife remember one time that he was doing real good, and then he got to this one meet and he was just sort of falling apart. And me and my wife was like, we were sort of fussing, not mad at each other, but like, okay, what is the heck is going on? So we sort of pulled him off to the side, and we was like, yo, you need to get it together. Bump all the dumb stuff. And the parents are looking at us like, oh, he's still good. No, 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 he ain't doing good. He ain't doing as good as he's supposed to be. And me and my wife got into him in the middle of the competition. We pulled him off to the side and were like, you need to get your act together and go out there and do what you need to do. After that, boom, 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 tore it up and qualified for whatever the next meet was. Because he was, I think it was the state meet or regional meet or whatever. But whatever it was, if he didn't get his act together, he wasn't going to qualify for the next one. So we saw something different. And we got in there and got him back on point, focus wise. And when it comes to athletes, what we learned trying to work with our son to get to the Olympics, or even just get to the trials, or even get to a point that you can try out for the trials. What we learned is that the people around the athlete have to always stay alert to their emotional well-being. I'm not saying you don't leave them alone. Let you know what I mean, let them be by themselves or go have fun or whatever. But you have to always be aware of their emotional well-being so that when they are going through something emotional, whether somebody says something to them, um, or anything, grieving, self doubt, whatever the case may be, that you can find a way. And one of the things that I learned was that no matter what my son showed on the outside, always be aware there may be some more going on the inside. And always be ready to encourage him. Always be ready to be there. Always be on the lookout. In other words, you got to be a scout. And never take for granted that an individual can put up a facade and then when they get by themselves, they could crash. And I know my son has crashed a few times, and later on we talked about it. And there was one time some kids said some things that was racial toward him, and we dealt with that, and it really affected him afterwards. And that's when I started learning, okay, I really got to make sure I pay attention. Watch the body language of the other kids. And of course, since they're kids, they're minors, you can't say much to them. And I'm saying all of this to say that in life, and I hear what a lot of people are saying about the young lady, Miss Richardson, in her Olympic quest. And a lot of people, when you don't have kids that are trying to compete on that level or have competed on that level, you just don't understand the pain that comes when they get a little sidetracked and do something that does or could potentially or does hinder them from moving forward to the next level or being able to fully take advantage of that opportunity that they work so hard for. And I hear a lot of people, they're like, hey, she owned up to it. What else are you going to do? But I'm my wife knows. She looks at me, she can tell, she can feel the hurt, she see the hurt in life, because I know and she knows what it takes just to go through the process, just to get recognized, just to go against all the naysayers. And my son, he was the tallest gymnast. He's over 6 feet tall, and people was telling him, you'll never compete, you can't. I mean, this is just on the junior level, all because he was taller than all the other kids, and he had to work 5 times, 10 times as hard, if not more. And I was like, I'll be doggone if I'm gonna let anything outside of an injury or his own personal desire not to compete anymore interfere with that. So I made sure I started paying attention. My wife made sure she started paying attention. We would have talks with him. We wouldn't even let him stay in the room with other kids because we noticed the kids would be into a whole bunch of mess and doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. And just as an example, when my son finally qualified for nationals, we go all the way to Michigan. And all these kids, thousands upon thousands of kids are here in this gym up there in Michigan. And they had some artists come there to sing. And all of us, one of the top male gymnasts, well, it was all men anyway, one of the top gymnasts, young fella, I don't even remember his name, got disqualified because on the night that they won the opening ceremony night, him and other kids decided to throw water bottles at the stage at the girl. And I think somebody even might have tried to touch her or said something to her. There was a lot of inappropriate things being done. And in that moment, I mean, even then I realized, I'm like, all it takes is for you to just get off focus, off track of what you're supposed to be doing just a little bit. And again, I can't remember the guy's name, but all I know is every single coach was so disappointed. His parents and other parents was like, "Did you hear?" He's like, "Yeah." And I didn't know who the kid was, but I just knew that. Like, all I know is that he's supposed to be pretty good. And Solomon, my son, told me about it. I'm like, "Oh man!" And they're like, "Yeah, he's been kicked out. Him and some other kids." And he was one of the top guys. And I can't remember if he had a scholarship or not and all of that. And I'm like, dang, playing. you know, throwing, I mean, something is, all you had to do is just watch this concert, this performance. All right, thank you. And then go compete the next day. And you got into being childish. This has not saying she was being childish. I'm talking about this guy. He got into being childish, got into being, the boys will be boys and all of that, and did something silly. And then and also there was some people doing mosh pit stuff, going around banging and all of that. And it's like, and I think somebody got hurt. So you had kids getting kicked out for throwing water bottles, kids getting hurt because they doing mosh pit. You see what I'm saying? And they got out of character. And to work that hard and to lose focus, it can, that's why I say there's some rules you just don't go down. I'm hurt that the young lady's not going. I had no desire to even look at the Olympics, and I was only going to look at the Olympics because of her. I don't even care about the Olympics now. My son, he's not competing anymore. He's a gymnastics coach and doing great doing that. But I'm hurt as a dad, as a parent who, I spent 4 years commuting from Virginia to Maryland to make the money to pay for my son's gymnastics so that he could compete without worrying about where the money was going to come from. Along with my other son, who was playing golf. Two of the most expensive sports that parents would have to pay for. You got, of course, soccer with the traveling, and then you got swimming can be very expensive. But the equipment, the competition fees, the travel, the hotel costs, sometimes renting vehicles, all of that. And I was like, I got to do everything I can to keep his focus so that he doesn't go off and do something that maybe publicly he'll never regret, but privately he would. And I never wanted my son to have any regrets. I wanted him to feel as though he put forth every effort. Now, whether he does have regrets, that's between him and himself. But I wanted to make sure that I did everything that I could. And me and my wife had said we'd be doggone if he's going to go out here. So when he was hurt, we made sure he didn't take the wrong substance. We verified, even though he was just 13, 14, maybe 15 years old, we checked against the banned list. I mean, we did all of that. We made sure so that nothing could come up down the road and kill his opportunity. Like I always say, there's just some roads you don't need to go down. And I'm really hoping that this young lady can bounce back from this in the next 3 years and go out there and do what she has already been destined to do. And that whatever else may come up in her life or in the life of any other athlete who's competing at a high level, that they may put some grief measures in place and not just leave it up to that person, and help them find the proper way to grieve, help them find the proper way to deal with whatever they're facing, whether it's the loss of a parent, the loss of a good friend. I mean, even the loss of a dog. I mean, you lose your dog. When we lost our dog, I mean, I was no good. I mean, I was just crying the whole day at work. You know, I lost a good friend of mine, and oh my goodness, I, I just couldn't stop crying. I don't know how many hours I cried. I came home and I couldn't even be at work anymore. And I came home and my way of dealing with it, I just started doing yard work. Just doing yard work. You know, so when my mom died, I'm just hopeful that not only just for her, but for other athletes, that USA track and field, gymnastics, and the whole United States Olympic group will, if they don't already, that they will be more proactive in making sure that the measures that they have in place, or that they get the proper measures in place to assist all of these athletes in dealing with whatever they're faced with, so that the opportunity that they have won't get taken away because they was trying to do, or they was trying to grieve, or trying to deal with something, and unintentionally or purposefully dealt with it in the wrong way that cost them. And that's the same thing, to me, even with business, we have to make sure that we do things correctly. We're faced with challenges in life, and we have to make sure that our decisions, we lose a contract or we get dropped, that we don't go out and do something that'll cost us even more, that won't cost us to lose even more. We lose one contract and we go out angry, not paying attention while we drive, and get in a car wreck, get paralyzed or kill somebody, and then that just destroys everything. We're all going to face trials and tribulations, various different things, and to me, the most important thing that I had to learn to do is deal with the problems that you're faced with. Deal with the bankruptcy, deal with getting laid off, deal with not being able to get hired, deal with, while you're hired, the people are constantly coming at you, and finding a way to deal with the stresses and the anxieties that come with being a human being on this earth. And with the help of my wife, my belief in the Most High, even my sons, I've been able to make it through. And that's what we need to do for each other. And I hope and I pray that those who are around her, as well as all the other athletes, will take note of how important it is to be there. And not saying that no one was trying to be there, but sometimes we like, oh, it'll be okay. All right. Sometimes we can't always take a person's word that they're okay. And man, I mean, it just bothers me. I mean, because I know to some degree what it takes to get to that level, and I know I know what it could have done for her life, but it's going to do it for her in 3 years. I'm hoping that in 3 years she's gonna get out there and show the world. She's gonna show the world what she has. Man, best of everything to Miss Richardson and to her family. She's gonna make it through this. She will. She will. She will. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on that because it was, it was just weighing on me, because I just understand. To, like I said, to some degree, not to the level that they're at, but I understand trying to get there. And lastly, just to those who don't have kids, who've never, I hear what you're saying. You know, it's great that she fessed up and all of that. She had no choice. But the pain that a person will feel from having a child, a loved one that is striving for that, and then something like this happens, or anything, even an injury, you just don't know. You just don't understand the way those who are trying to go down that road, and you don't have kids and all of that. So I hear what you're saying, but there, to me, it's just more than just okay. Well, she just hey, I did wrong, and I took responsibility for what I did. It's just some roads you just don't go down, and those who are around folk who are in that great position need to ensure that they don't go down it. And you can't make anybody. You can't. We know that. But those of us who are around them can put forth a valiant effort to do the best we can to help them and to ensure that they have every resource available to them. And then if they still go down a path they shouldn't, got it. But at least have no regrets on your end as a supporter of them, that you did everything that you could and that you didn't take anything for granted with them, and put forth every effort to be there for them at 8 in the morning, 10 at night, 3 in the morning, whenever, to help them get to the end of that goal that they have set for themselves. That's all I'm saying. Peace.